You are on the clock. We are exactly 2 weeks away from the start of free agency in the National Football League, and we are back with Jeremy Fowler and Tim Hasselbeck. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. Let's begin with the best free agent quarterback on the market, Sam Darnold. What can you tell us about the teams looking for him, perhaps? What's the market for Sam Darnold?
Yeah, teams I've talked to kind of have him in that Baker Mayfield weight class. A year ago, Mayfield got 3 years, around $100 million on a new deal from Tampa. Well, Darnold could get something similar, maybe a little higher with inflation and the rising salary cap, but the franchise tag as it sits is projected to be over $40 million. Most teams I talked to do not see him in that weight class. So Minnesota has to decide, do they want to go that high? Do they try to just sign him outright to a new deal, or do they move on? I was told pretty firmly that J.J. McCarthy will be their franchise quarterback. It just depends on when. Is that now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now? So they got to kind of decide in the next few weeks which range they want to go. I'm told they are definitely open to a potential deal with Sam Darnold. They have not closed that door. They just have not made a firm determination yet. Meanwhile, you have teams like the Las Vegas Raiders that could be lurking in free agency.
All right. Assuming the Jets are not on the table, Tim Hasselbeck, what team do you think would be a good fit for Sam Darnold?
Yeah, the Jets definitely aren't, which does impact his value, right? If there's certain teams that he can't return to. But I think the best spot for Sam Darnold is to return to Minnesota. And I do think that the market will be strong for him. He's a quarterback that has played at a Pro Bowl level this past season, brought his team to the playoffs, had a lot of success, and he's far from 30 years old. People need to remember, Sam Darnold was drafted into a bad situation and he wasn't old enough to buy a beer. So I do think that Sam Darnold, who's proved that he can play in that offense, he can work with Kevin O'Connell. I actually think it's a great match for Minnesota, and I think it's a great match for Sam Darnold. And I think it ends up as, quality starter money. And just to kind of piggyback on what Jeremy's saying about Baker Mayfield, that's another playoff quarterback, right? So, if you're a team that's scoffing at, I don't want that guy, well, you better have a playoff quarterback on your roster. There are a lot of teams that don't. So the reality is Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold are playoff quarterbacks.
Yeah, so the Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold switcheroo between Minnesota and New York, probably not going to happen. We can dream here at SportsCenter, but let's get to the offensive line, Jeremy. The Chiefs' right guard, Trey Smith, only 25 years old, one of the best free agents available, really regardless of position. You might argue he's the best guy available in free agency right now. What teams are interested that you're hearing about signing him?
Yeah, Michelle, he's going to be a red-hot name. The Chiefs are one. They would love to re-sign Trey Smith, but it's going to be tough. They don't have a lot of cap space, hovering around $8 million in space. If you franchise tag Trey Smith, you're looking at a number well above $20 million on a one-year patch. So that's something they might not be able to do. They'll at least talk to Smith's reps at the combine and see what they can shake out. Trey Smith is being linked to the Chicago Bears in some league circles, in part because GM Ryan Poles was there in Kansas City when they drafted Trey Smith. He knows what that player can do, and they have a big-time need in the interior offensive line. There will be others. Tennessee Titans come to mind. New England Patriots come to mind as teams that could be looking for interior offensive line help.
Tim, what team makes the most sense, do you think, for Trey Smith?
One of the teams that Jeremy mentioned, the New England Patriots. I think he's just personality-wise, I think the type of player he is a total fit for Mike Vrabel. I mean, he's really physical. And I just think when you have a young quarterback, you're trying to build everything around. And the fact that a brand of football I know Vrabel's going to want to coach is about being physical, that matters. And I think it's going to be tough for Kansas City because if they do try to franchise him, guards don't get treated differently than tackles in terms of the franchise tag. And so it's probably an avenue that the Chiefs don't want to go down in terms of putting the franchise tag on an interior offensive lineman, which is what Trey Smith is.
Finally, let's talk about defense. Jeremy, Josh Sweat coming off 2.5 sacks for Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. Do you think he goes back to Philly?
My sense right now is no. He's going to get pretty high-end money, only 27, productive edge rusher. Philly has some other needs. Edge rusher is one if Sweat, of course, leaves, but they could look to backfill with another player, maybe with a trade or another free agent. But my sense right now is that Sweat would not go back because his market will go back to Arizona with his old coach, Jonathan Gannon. The Chicago Bears, we talked about them with Trey Smith. They could also be looking for an edge rusher. Maybe they reunite with Khalil Mack, who's maybe the best player in this edge rusher free agency class. He's just on the older side of 30, so that could affect his market. But Josh Sweat, when it's all said and done, could be the highest paid edge rusher in this class, making close to or around $20 million per year.
And Tim, what team do you like for Josh Sweat?
I like the ones Jeremy mentioned, but I also like the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, need a true pass rusher. They were a team that generated a decent amount of pressure last year. First-year defense coordinator Jeff Hafley did a good job scheme-wise, but sometimes, like we saw in the Super Bowl, it's best if your guys up front can just get the pass rush done and you don't have to allocate other players to the rush. So I would say Green Bay, but as Jeremy said, there are going to be a lot of suitors.
All right, Jeremy, Tim, thank you so much. Sit tight. We'll have more from you later.
And then the injuries happen, piles of them. And frankly, the up and down play all season, leading to a 6-11 finish this past season. Now, they've already made big changes to the coaching staff, with more coming to the roster, not to mention a very big decision of when and what to pay their QB1 Brock Purdy. So what does this all mean for San Fran? Nick Wagoner unpacks the decisions they must make this offseason to return to prominence.
After failing to make the playoffs for the first time since 2020, the 49ers head into a pivotal offseason where quarterback Brock Purdy's contract extension remains the first order of business.
What we know about Brock is that he's our guy.
I plan on being with Brock here the whole time I'm here, and I know he's capable of getting the Niners Super Bowl in the future.
What a play by Brock Purdy.
Purdy has said he'd like to get something done sooner than later so he can be back with his guys in time for the offseason program in April. The size of his deal could determine just how many of those guys return. General Manager John Lynch has already said the team will release defensive tackle Javon Hargrave with the post-June 1st designation to create salary cap room. Receiver Deebo Samuel has requested a trade and also looks to be on the way out. What's more, contract adjustments for the likes of tight end George Kittle and linebacker Fred Warner could create additional financial space. And the 49ers have about 24 unrestricted free agents, many of whom they'd like to keep. Purdy says he doesn't want any kind of drama associated with anything and that he wants to help the team with other players who need deals. However, that doesn't mean he will offer a substantial hometown discount.
Discount. Well, senior NFL reporter Jeremy Fowler and NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck back with us. Okay, so Jeremy, Nick Wagoner just laid out some of the moves that the 49ers may need to make in order to make room to sign Brock Purdy. So what are you hearing about their approach to Deebo Samuel specifically?
Yeah, Ryan, I'm told that several teams have expressed preliminary interest in Deebo Samuel to the 49ers. Now, that could be via trade, or those teams could try to wait out the 49ers, see if they eventually release Deebo Samuel so they wouldn't have to give up the trade compensation to get him. So all that will be hashed out most likely next week at the Indiana for the Combine. Now, the 49ers are not in a major rush here because they have a $15 million roster bonus they need to pay Samuel, but that is not due until March 22nd. So they got some weeks here to sort of figure this out. But the expectation league-wide is that there would at least be a market for him because of what he can do when he's at his best. Still age 29, but has some juice left.
All right, Tim, let's stay with the Niners. When it comes to Brock Purdy, we've seen franchise QBs lately get north of $50 million a year on new deals. How do you view Purdy in terms of just what he's worth to San Fran?
Yeah, he's a high caliber starter. And so high caliber starters, are approaching that $50 million range. And, some people can look at it and say, hey, is he worth it? Look, he's played well enough at times to win your Super Bowl. We just played the sound in the clip there with Kyle Shanahan talking about, bringing a Super Bowl to the 49ers. And so when you have a guy like that in your organization, you want to keep him. Look, not everybody can have Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Sometimes it's got to look a little different. Doesn't mean you're not paid alongside your peers. And just to kind of put this in perspective so people understand it.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett, who came into the league at the same time as Brock Purdy, he's made about $11.5 million so far playing the National Football League. Brock Purdy has made less than $2.9 million playing in the NFL and has certainly accomplished a lot more. Talk about discount or bargain, things like that. Like, there has been no greater bargain since 2022 than Brock Purdy. So, I think as you look at it, like, what does the number end up being? It's starter money. Look, they may use that against him a little bit, but he should be paid on par with his peers.
Amazing perspective there when you think about what he is getting paid now relative to his peers. Let's talk about the division, though, Jeremy. What's the latest, talking about another quarterback with the Rams and their plan, or perhaps Matthew Stafford's plan to go it alone here?
Yeah, Michelle, the latest is the Los Angeles Rams do want to do a deal with Matthew Stafford. They want him to continue playing for them in 2025. And that Stafford is certainly open to and wants that as well. But he needs a raise. He's due $27 million in cash this year. He desires a higher contract. The Rams understand that. I think they're willing to do that to a point, is my sense. Are they going to go in that $50-55 million per year range for Stafford at age 37? I don't sense that. And people I've talked to around the league don't sense that either. But here's the problem. They have opened up the doors here. They have let Stafford over the last week or so and his representation talk to other teams, not to facilitate a trade, but to gauge his market, what he would be worth or should be worth as one of the top quarterbacks in the league and a Super Bowl winner. So if somebody comes with a big number and he gets that kind of feedback, takes him to the Rams, they might not want to match that. Then that could lead to a million dominoes that would dominate this offseason. But as of now, cooler heads could prevail. Both sides do want to shake something out, and a lot of other teams I've talked to, including teams that need a quarterback, are skeptical that Stafford would leave the Rams.
All right, so Tim, still Matthew Stafford is the straw that stirs the Rams' drink. What do you think is the best way forward for LA at quarterback?
I think it's with Stafford, and a lot of the stuff that Jeremy kind of outlined is, I think the Rams feel that same way. I think the Rams just understand that Stafford feels like he's underpaid, which he is, but in order to say, okay, a 37-year-old quarterback, like, how much are we committing to you going forward? What does that market look like? Let's get a sense of it. And I think the benefit for Stafford's camp is the same group that represents Sam Darnold. So I think the sense of what the quarterback market is looking like is going to be very evident to the representation of Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold. So look, I think ultimately they end up back together on something that's fair for the team and Stafford. It'll be a lot of money because Stafford's still playing at a high level.
All right, Jeremy and Tim, look, if I had the money, I'd pay you each $50 million. So there you go.
Sold.
Yeah, thanks, guys.